today on the Fox and Buds show, we're interviewing the directors of the Austin Area Arts nonprofit. The Austin Area Arts oversees what is done with the Austin Artwork Center, the Paramount Theatre, and the Artworks Festival. In front of me, we have Laura, who is the executive director, and Kelsey, who is the operations director, both of which have put in multiple years of excellent work into improving the culture of our local community. And let's just get right into things. Would either of you like to just share with us what both of your jobs involve and how they differ?
I'll let Laura go first.
Okay. So my job as executive director, that means I sit at the top of the org chart. I report to a board of directors, and I'm kind of the link between the board of directors that sets the bigger vision and direction, and the staff and volunteers that actually carry it out. So I'm that middle person, taking messages both ways. So I would say most of my job is communication, but one of the reasons why I love it is that there's no typical day. There really truly isn't. Like right now I'm sitting in the Paramount Theater while somebody tests the alarm system. So bring my laptop with me, working on email, doing all that kind of stuff. But some of my other duties include fundraising, grant writing. I am the HR department, so I hire people and do annual reviews for them. I do some, a little bit of accounting, just forwarding invoices on, like approving whatever's going to get paid and making sure we've got money coming in, those kinds of things. So it's very, very wide range of tasks. And you don't have to be perfect at anything, but you have to be pretty good at a lot of things.
I see.
So for me, as operations director, I oversee operations, which is everything from scheduling part-time staff and volunteers, making sure that all the logistics are taken care of, all the contracts are done, making sure that we're collecting money on rentals, but paying out to artists. I oversee the artwork center in the retail space quite a bit, so I work with all of our artists that are in the gallery and retail space at the artwork center. I also take out the trash and do anything that is needed, or finding someone to do what is needed for day to day to keep us open and functioning.
Okay, so it sounds like both of you kind of wear multiple hats at some degree.
Very
I'm curious then, are these the types of careers that both of you wanted when you were younger, or are these things that you kind of just found and were attracted to later on in life?
You go first.
So I went to school for graphic design, and by the time I graduated, I did not want to do graphic design. It was my last year was really hard, and it wasn't enjoyable, so I didn't really want to go into that field. I moved to Austin from out of state, and I had a really hard time finding a job. And so I ended up working at a hearing aid place in town for years, until someone from Austin Area Arts approached me for a job that they never hired for. But then down the road, something opened up, and I started just as like a retail manager, and my role here has grown year after year after year. And I love it, because I went to school for graphic design and business. I'm still working with artists. I'm still doing the business management part, but I don't necessarily have to be producing artwork and staring at a computer screen for 8 hours a day.
Yeah. It sounds like a nice middle point between staying in the art field, but also being able to like pay your bills.
Yes, yeah, it's a happy accident that it's all worked out.
I also went to school for graphic design, and when I was, let's say, a high school student, I thought I would move to a major metro and work for a magazine and do magazine layout. That was kind of my dream or like the gold standard of what I thought would be the most exciting. That isn't what ended up happening. I ended up coming to Austin, and I worked for a printing company for a little while, doing some design work, but also kind of office management and print, like basically operations for them, like assigning which printer used which press to print what first and all that kind of jazz. So from there, I was looking for a job in Austin. I didn't want to commute all the way to Albert Lee. And I got hired as the director of the Hormel Historic Home. So that was my first time working in nonprofit. And I really, really loved it. I loved the challenge of it, that there's so much variety to it. And I loved working with the community, that it's not that I wasn't, I don't mind being at a computer, but I want to like interact with a lot of different people out in public, and not just like my few people I work with. So that's how I got started. And then eventually Austin Area Arts opened up. And since that's like right in my wheelhouse between nonprofit and arts, it was a good fit. So no, I would not have predicted this is where I would land. Absolutely not.
Yeah, but you both seem very appreciative of where you are, and that's really cool. To follow along with that, then, if someone wanted to work for their local arts center, art festival, theater, or even art-focused nonprofit, would you suggest that they have any sort of credentials? Like, would a college degree be a necessity, or would someone even in high school be able to like go up there and apply?
What are HR manager into?
Well, specifically in the case of Austin Area Arts, yes, we actually have high school and even younger students who actually sell their artwork through our center. We don't have age restrictions. So if you're making art, please approach Austin Area Arts. We want to work with you. And I would imagine most other art centers, especially nonprofits around the country, are the same way. For us, we try to have some good entry points in terms of we hire some high school students to do things like janitorial work. And so it gives them a chance to be around the organization, even if the role that they're doing isn't making art. When I hire, I am looking, number one, for the skill set for the job. So whatever the job description is, do you have the skills? Can you actually do it? I like to see a degree completed, but that is only because it shows me that you can stick to a multi-year project. So I don't care if you have a 2-year degree in welding from the University of Nowhere. I really don't. I like the prestige schools, all that kind of stuff, what your degree's in, don't care. I want the skills. I want to see that you can have some stick-to-itiveness, that you can persevere and complete something that is a goal for you. And that's what I'm looking for. So I think that if you want a career in the arts, education is not a bad idea, but I don't think it's the be all end all. And I would seriously consider, especially around Austin, you can go get that 2-year degree at Riverland for almost nothing if you qualify for the insurance scholarship. So like, let's say cosmetology sounds not terrible to you. Get your cosmetology degree. You will never go hungry if you have that degree. And then you can figure out how to do just enough hours of that to pay your bills and make art on the side, or eventually transition into just art. But I would not worry about getting into the fanciest art school at all. But I would seek other education of some kind. It'll help you grow and know yourself. And it also helps you show that you can complete a project, complete a goal, just stick with it on something that's hard.
Awesome. You actually answered a few other questions I had for you too, so I really appreciate that. Is there a difference in the work someone would do that you hired versus someone who's like wanting to volunteer to work maybe at the art fest or something? Like, what can people expect?
So anybody who is willing to volunteer is welcome to volunteer.
Hmm.
They don't need to be an artist. They don't need to be a purchaser of art. They just have to be willing and able to help us fulfill our vision. So literally anybody can volunteer. Sometimes there's skills like if they're volunteering at the Paramount, they have to be comfortable, handling cash, or if they're bartending, they have to understand that there's a difference between red and white wine. But for staff, I think what Laura said, just having the right qualifications, not necessarily the perfect background. I know one of our janitorial and box office staff is a fabulous artist. She's a high school student and she's not quite sure what she's going to pursue. She's going to go to Riverland as far as I know, but we encourage her to participate in our member show and a staff show and do as much as she can, no matter what the job actually is.
Okay.
I think it might be useful to just kind of tell a story about somebody who works for us to give you an idea of an entry point. And this was actually one of my favorite stories. Many years ago, one of our board members approached me and said, the city of Austin has these park benches and they're old and they need to be repainted. And I told them that we would paint them with something fun and cool instead of just plain green. How are we going to do it? And I said, okay, well, we'll make this like a Saturday thing. We'll put it in this space. We'll open it to the public until people show up. We'll have the paints and the brushes and you just paint a bench and it's a community bench painting. And then, this was like in January, and then you'll see when spring comes, you'll see your bench and you can go find it somewhere in the park system. So we did that. And, a grandma in the community told her family, this is what I want to do. We're all going to go and paint a bench together and we'll decide on the design together and we'll create it. And this will be my birthday gift. So this is what you guys are doing for me. So they showed up and the mom, it was grandma, mom, granddaughter, a couple other aunts or something in the mix. And the mom came up to me and said, my daughter is an art student at Riverland and I think you should meet her. And so I did. And, I said, we don't have any positions open right now, but we're always looking for instructors for classes and things like that. Can I have your contact information? She said, sure. Just started, basically was introduced and got to know her. Well, we ended up hiring her on a part-time basis, 12 hours a week to do retail for us on Saturdays. And fast forward to now, she's a full-time employee for us. She really proved her skills at that part-time level. She finished her degree at Riverland. When we had a position open up, she took that, and then eventually we were able to make her full-time. So I would say step one is just show up, be a familiar face, get to know the people at the organization, and be willing to do whatever. I mean, we really do, like Kelsey and I really do it all. We really do empty the trash and, take the mail to the post office. So there's probably nothing we're going to ask a volunteer to do that we don't do ourselves. But just being willing to be part of the process and not necessarily expecting to jump to, well, you're going to hand me a full-time job on a platter doing exactly what I want. That's probably not realistic, but get started, build the relationships, and things will come out of it.
Awesome. Switching gears just a little bit, you kind of already mentioned it was pretty straightforward to apply to get your art in the art center, but is there, like, people who haven't been there, what type of art can they expect to see? And then backing off of that, people wanting to get their art in there, is there a certain art style, medium, or even just like focus that you're looking for? Is there something that you really want? And then is there something that you would just be like, you know what, that's just not what we're looking for, that you could elaborate on?
Yes, I would say for our retail space, we have over 100 artists right now, and artists ebb and flow with how much work they do. So
Mhm.
we gain artists and lose artists on a regular basis. So anyone who is producing work of quality, come in, apply, it goes through a jury process. We take a look at it. If the answer is not the retail space, we will find another idea for them, whether it's to continue working and taking a couple classes or coming into open studio and networking with other artists, being in our member show, applying for the festival. We will make it work. What we're always looking for at the Artwork Center is what we don't have. Um, there's a lot that we don't have. We're always on the lookout for textiles. We've been on the lookout for wood carving. We have some, but we'd like to see more. And there's so many different styles and different ways. Like it's not like we have one oil painter. There's so many ways to use oil paints that we're always looking. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I would say like the literal criteria that we look at are, is it really high quality? Is it, does it have a wow factor? Is it something original that we haven't seen before? Is it something that someone's going to walk by and go like, oh, and then we also really, try to stay on the art side of arts and crafts. We don't want to be a craft store. So one key way to know if it's a craft is like, are you following a pattern that someone else created and just making that pattern over and over? Or is each item an original? Are you coming up with the design of how it looks and how it functions and that kind of stuff? So yeah, we're looking for, like Kelsey said, for something that we don't have. So it helps if you can come in and take a look around, or even just look at our website. We do have a lot of pictures posted. But at this point, I mean, would we say we have enough jewelry artists? Or would we say, if you've got a unique take on jewelry and it's something no one else is doing, come see us? I guess
Yeah,
that would be the best.
yeah. And we do sell a lot of jewelry. So jewelry is an important part. It's not necessarily painting or photography, but it is an important art making media.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would say for making a living in the arts is try to learn how to do the sort of like printing and multiples. So like, let's say you're a painter, you know, get familiar with how to make a print of a painting, of how to make a greeting card, find the sources that are reasonable and that you're not paying an arm and a leg for it, because it's just kind of a marketing thing. People are at all different price points, and you have to have a mix to get you know, pay your bills every month. Yeah, I'm sure some people just sell one $10,000 painting every other month, but I think most people have a mix between the, you know, one big original painting and some prints and some cards and some keychains and whatever else. So sort of go down that track and see what you can do as far as originals versus prints.
And one thing I would say to anybody who's never been here, we don't bite. Like, come down, check it out. It is not a hoity-toity kind of gallery. It is an art space for the community, for either shopping or just viewing art. We love window shoppers. We have the gallery space on the second floor, but on the main floor, we have painting, photography, we have candle making, we have jewelry, we have textiles, we have a little bit of everything. So there's going to be something that someone enjoys, I'm guessing, as they come in. It's not going to be a boring experience.
Yeah, I mean, I've never not found anything. I found something I didn't like at the art center. So
Yeah.
would either of you like to just talk about the history of the art center, maybe the history of the Paramount, maybe just educate people about the background of all of these things, even the festival too?
Sure, I can take that one, Kelsey, unless you're gonna fight me for it.
You will.
So our story, Austin Area Art story, starts with the Paramount. In 1929, the Paramount Theater was built as a first-run movie theater, and it operated that way until 1972. And then it went through sort of the rough and awkward teenage years where it changed over ownership several times and was different things. It was a nightclub, it was a comedy club, it was a kids' daycare, all kinds of things. And then eventually in 1993, a group of concerned Austin area folks came together, formed a nonprofit, and bought the Paramount. It was, at that time, it was an empty building. It had been vacant for a little while. They couldn't get one bank to cover the whole mortgage, so they had to get half their mortgage from one bank and half from another bank, because neither one of them wanted to take the full risk. And then they started renovating it and bringing it back to what it had been like in 1929, and that process took about 20 years. And during that whole time, they used the Paramount kind of any way they could think of. I know they told me that even before they had theater seats in the theater, they had children's plays, and they would tell the guests to bring their own lawn chair to sit on because there wasn't any chairs. So that was kind of the 90s and early 2000s. And in 2011, Austin Area Arts, which by the way, our legal name is Austin Area Commission for the Arts, they hired their first executive director, which was Jenny Germain. And she did a great job and really started bringing in a lot of professionalism. And then in 2012, the Austin Artworks Festival got started, and the festival needed a sort of a fiscal agent, so they came over under the umbrella of Austin Area Arts and started doing the 2-day festival every August. It's an outdoor festival, and it's fine art exhibitors that are juried in, a music stage, an author stage, and then demonstrations of the arts. So lots of different things, and great for families and all kinds of people. So then in 2014, the Oak Park Mall was closing and being demolished, and there was an organization out there called Austin Area Art Center, and their membership was older, and they were losing their spot at Oak Park Mall. And there was an idea to start this new art center downtown in where we are now, 300 North Main. At that time, it was a bank building, kind of the vacant bank building. And so a group of, again, just concerned people who were interested in it got together, and they proposed merging Austin Area Art Center with Austin Area Arts, making one organization, renovating that building. And so that's what happened in 2014. We opened, it was a clay cavern in the basement, retail on the main floor, and then the second floor is gallery space, a kind of flex space where we also can do classes and live music events. And so those are still our 3 branches of programming. So we have performing arts at the Paramount, we have visual arts and education at the Artworks Center, and then Austin Artworks Festival every August. So it's a lot to juggle, but they are all kind of interrelated.
Yeah, it's really good to know that there's just loads of people in the community here that actually really do care about the arts, and just, you know, how the community can actually participate in that too. So like, that's awesome. And I hope people watching this too also realize that if you really do care about the arts, there are people out there that you can reach out to and support, and they'll support you. Like you said, y'all don't bite, and you know, it's not some hoity-toity place. It's a really casual, you can just walk right in and everyone will just greet you with a smile on their face and show you around, you know? So
Exactly.
I would like to now move on to some more personal questions, starting off with something super basic. What's your guys' favorite art style and art medium?
I'm gonna take the easy answer and say mixed media. I read a lot of stuff. I really like people who not only paint, but maybe they paint on photographs, or they add in ink or pencil or charcoal. So a mixture of things, and I love abstract. So abstract mixed media is my go-to.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm also really a collage, and I feel like collage is an area that, for whatever reason, it's kind of having a moment. People are taking it sort of a different way. Any kind of art that has humor in it, I like. And I'm also really interested in public art. Somebody asked me if I could commission a famous artist to make a piece for me, what would it be? And hands down, it would be, I would have Banksy make me a stencil, like like public art, guerrilla style, spray my image somewhere that it maybe isn't supposed to be. So yeah, I like the public art. I liked watching all the stuff that's going up in the Ukraine during the war and stuff.
That's awesome. Well, I kind of want to go off of that then too, is how important do you guys think art is in terms of like politics and like actually like being a way to represent a movement? For instance, like when I was documenting the George Floyd stuff, the art I saw that was all surrounding that was just phenomenal. You know, you had everything from simple throwaways where people were just writing George's name to very elaborate, complicated spray paint murals. And I felt like that really just kind of gave that movement just a better voice, a more pro-social way to go about things. And I say that fully knowing that graffiti is a crime. So hopefully people don't bite my head off in the comments on that one, because I'm not condoning that people go out and graffiti, you know, local businesses, but you know, stuff happens. So I'd love to know what you guys think about that.
Right, and I definitely did not confess to wanting to commit a crime. I think that artists have a unique place in society where they can literally imagine a better future and then show it to the rest of us. They can literally think about how would it look, how would it feel, how would it sound if we actually were all equal, if we actually were, you know, if all of our systems were equitable. So that's part of why I really love my work, is because I think not only can we be those vanguards who are showing what the future could be, it's also much more approachable than a line of shouting protesters. It's much more approachable than a riot. It's even much more approachable than boring politicians debating the cost of a gallon of gas or whatever it is. I think we can touch on emotions, and it's a very powerful way to engage with people.
Agreed.
Obviously, being an artist and working in the arts requires a certain level of just passion, and it is really a labor of love in a lot of ways. With that being said, you know, how did the passion start for either of you? Were the arts something that you guys grew up with, or did you kind of delve into that yourself? And then following onto that, I'm sure there were times in your life where you looked at yourself and looked back at everything and said, hey, maybe this isn't what I want to do. Maybe being an artist or being a professional in the art industry isn't something I can accomplish. And how did you pull yourself out of that? How did you, you know, continue to push yourself and, you know, develop your passion and your skills?
Well, I already answered the second part of that question. Was when I graduated college, I just did not want to do graphic design, and taking a break, if it is not making you happy, you don't have to continue doing it. And I see artists all the time, they need to take breaks, whether it's to get a different job or having children. Like, you are allowed to take a break, you can always come back to it. And when you come back, usually you'll come back a little bit stronger. I was lucky enough to grow up with an artist in our family already. So as a 3-4-year-old, I saw my uncle creating art and selling art and being commissioned. and was told that that is an option when I grow up. When I hit high school, I was like, well, I'd like to make money. So I went to college thinking I'd study business. And then I sat down with my business advisor during the first semester and he said, this isn't you. What is you and what do you want to spend your next 4 years doing? And so I switched to art because that really was what I was passionate about. But it comes and goes. And even with my job now, some days I'm super creative. Some days I'm just writing contracts. But that's what I love about it. Because if I was in it all the time, I may not be myself. And be grumpy like some of the greats have, like depressive Jackson Pollock. That's not for me.
I see.
So I grew up in rural Iowa. I lived literally on a gravel road, and my playmates were my siblings and like the cornfields. So I don't know if that environment where I had to kind of entertain myself a lot was part of just using my imagination but I think it's partially just my personality. I've always made up stories in my head. I've always been drawing things. I've always been taking something and turning it into something else. It's just part of who I am. I think if you're feeling stuck in your work life, whether it's stuck doing a job you don't like and you're dreaming of art, or if you're stuck in the art and it's feeling like a grind, I think the next right step, you don't have to know the whole journey to start. So start doing something different. Whether that's changing your schedule, whether it's getting a new job, whether it's stopping making a certain kind of art, just anything to sort of shake up the routine is good. I did some research about creativity, and it's said many different ways, but the basic exercise is like write with your non-dominant hand, right? So if you're right-handed, write with your left. If you're left-handed, write with your right. Flip that idea and use it any way that you can. If that means, not taking a picture with the camera, but taking it instead with a Polaroid, or, who knows, just something to shake up your routine. And no matter how insignificant it seems, those small changes like that will lead to ripple effects later on, and you don't have to know exactly where you're going to get started.
So kind of like getting out of your comfort zone. Okay.
Very much so. Yes.
Yeah, I would say if you are an artist and you are pursuing the arts, you cannot be afraid. You have to be a brave person, because if you go to school for art, you get critiqued, but you have to take that information and work with it. You could apply for a gallery space and they could say no. Okay, what is the next step? So being able to pivot is very important.
And I would say, this is just my personal philosophy, you can be afraid, but then you still got to do it. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Either one of those works. Either be brave or be scared and do it anyway. But the point is, take the action.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I personally can understand that too, because getting used to criticism is hard, and getting used to all the rejection is really hard and discouraging at first. But once you understand it and kind of live by the law of averages too, in terms of, well, if I've applied to all these galleries, surely the more I apply to, the more will accept me eventually, right? That's a good way to look at it from my perspective. So it's great to hear you guys say that, and hopefully other people watching this feel empowered hearing all of that. Do you guys have any advice to give to any like struggling artists then that actually might be thinking about giving up just because they're not making ends meet, or they just feel discouraged?
I would say try something new. Take a short break, or find someone to talk to. A lot of communities nowadays do have an art center of some kind, and just going in and talking to somebody else, whether it be a stranger, another artist, even a friend, just like get the frustration out. We may come up with a fabulous idea. You're like, well, I'm doing this, but I want to be doing blah, 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 blah. And you're like, well, why not give that a try? Go for it. Yeah. I'd say don't give up, but pivot.
Yeah, I would also say don't give up. And also I think it might be worth sort of re-examining your goals and defining success, because if success is every single place I apply to takes my work, or every show I want to be in invites me, then you're relying on externals for success. At least part of your success needs to be internal. I'm proud of my work. I'm creating work that I am proud of. I'm taking care of myself in whatever way that means. If that means I'm exercising on a regular basis, or I'm getting fresh air, or I'm paying my bills, or eating, good food. So align your goals with it, things that are internal and things that you can control. I would say don't give up. And also, I don't think anybody else can really tell you you are an artist or you aren't an artist. I think that's in the intent. If you make stuff, if you, just organically have the urge to make something, whether it's a bowl of chili or a logo or a crocheted doll, if you're a maker, if you're a creative person, that's it. Number one, you've arrived already. You can stop striving and worrying about arriving. But then also, nobody can take that away from you. If you work in fast food the rest of your life and make your stuff on the side, no one can say, oh, you're not really an artist. You're an artist. Just go ahead and own it, and know that it's not tied to a dollar figure. It's not tied to anybody else's ideas. It's internal.
Awesome. Those were some really well thought out answers from both of you, and personally motivational in my opinion too. So, but kind of getting a little bit more political, then I kind of have a question too. What do you guys have to say about people who are wanting to cut funding to the arts in their communities, who don't think arts in general are something that are maybe worth the time for their kids to follow or for themselves to follow, due to more of the consumerist and materialistic way our society has gotten? You got to go get a job and work and do that. You should always work, and maybe not set enough time for yourself to just relax and create even. So
I remember Laura saying to a group of people, art is a necessity in order to have a great community. And changing your mindset on that, it's not an extra, it's necessary, especially for certain people. They need to be able to express things. I would say funding is hard, but you have to find a way to let students express themselves in a different way, because not everybody learns the same, not everybody teaches the same way. Kind of a non-answer answer.
So it sort of depends on your audience, but with government leaders, the facts speak for themselves. The arts are an economic driver. Every artist is a small business. And so if you just want to think of it as funding entrepreneurs and funding small business, that's fine, but that is arts funding. I think that there's families that they just don't connect with the arts, and that's okay. My family doesn't really connect with sports, and that's okay. But we're not asking the school to cut the budget for sports. We're not asking the Y to shut down. We're not asking anybody to give up anything. We're just saying, The arts is part of the mix. I don't think you can have a healthy, thriving community without them. I think in some ways we're kind of fortunate because living through the pandemic, people realized that they missed things. And you know what they missed? They missed live music. They missed going to experience things with other people, like a great painting or an art demonstration or a class. We did hear from people that they missed the connections, they missed the community, and they missed the art in general. And some we could deliver, you know, over Zoom, or we had art class in a bag and we drove them all over town. People do miss it if it's not there, and it does help your economy. So you don't even have to get into the whole like touchy-feely fact that we're all different and some people need that creative outlet. You can just look at the hard numbers and say, yeah, this is a good return on investment.
Yeah, I mean, that is a really good perspective when you really word it as every artist is basically their own little small business, because it's true, and I don't think a lot of people in power realize that either. Do you guys have any like wise words or any advice to give artists who are trying to increase their publicity, maybe get more of a maybe like interviews with news, press, whole nine yards in terms of just like expanding their audience?
I would say have a business card. As an artist, you are a small business, so you need to be able to represent yourself. Have a business card. You never know when the opportunity will come where you meet somebody or make a connection where it could lead to something else. That's one of my biggest pet peeves of artists, and I get the business side of art can be really hard. And I'd say the most basic thing to have is a business card. And if you can have a bio, an artist statement, just to have in your back pocket, it helps market yourself.
So this is going to sound like a corny idea, but I truly think this is a strategy that I would try. If you're in Southeast Minnesota or another sort of rural area in the United States, go join a club. Join the Lions Club or the Rotary Club or the Kiwanis or the AAUW Club. Something that you have to leave your house once a month, once a week, and go be there with other people so that they know you and know what they do. And the reason why is there might not be a reporter in your club, but somebody in your club knows a reporter. And somebody in your club knows somebody who wants to buy your art. And so it's the very, very first toe in the water of networking. I promise you, no matter how small of a community you live in, there's some club to join. Go join the club, go meet the people. You don't have to do it forever. This is a secret. You don't have to do it forever. And they're going to be so happy to have you because all of those clubs are just like dying for members. So you're going to be the hero just for showing up. But I would do that. I would start really, really small with networking to try to build your public profile. And I would be careful about giving your work away. People will ask, don't you want to do this just for the exposure? And no, you want to give an interview for the exposure. You do not want to sing a song or paint a painting or print a photo for the exposure. It's a fine line.
Yeah,
but it's important. And it might help to just think that through ahead of time. What are you willing to sort of give or do for exposure?
Well, backing off of that then, because a lot of that has to do with knowing your worth. Do you have any advice to give to artists who are maybe having issues like knowing their worth? You know, maybe they don't know what to price something at. Maybe they don't know how to really start selling stuff. You know, maybe there's some good words you got on either of those subjects.
Kelsey is really good at pricing, so I would say ask your friendly like art center area for guidance on pricing. I would also say, like, this is an experiment. So if you put $50 on it, that doesn't mean you have to sell it for 50 forever. If you put 50 on it and it's gone in a second, that's probably too low. If you put 1,500 on it and it sits there for a year, that's probably too high. So it's okay to just slide it around a little. But I would definitely, I guess I would definitely err on the side of higher. There is a thing where if it's too cheap, people think it's cheap, and people don't want it if it's too cheap. So I would definitely err on the side of a little higher. I would think about your actual hours that you put into it and then give yourself a professional wage. And by professional wage, I mean like $30 or $35 an hour. I think that's fair, especially if you're, I mean, if you're a brand new artist with hardly any experience, maybe $20 an hour, but certainly no less than that, and probably more than that. I don't know if those are helpful enough guidelines, but
I think also doing some research.
yeah.
Either, let's say a vendor at IJ Holton did the one-stop Christmas shop, and they didn't sell as much as they thought. Walk around and see what other people's prices are. Look to see what your audience is, because your prices don't have to stay the same forever. They can change depending on the venue, the place, the agreement. But we had an artist who created lamps. I had no idea how to price lamps. So I looked online, I looked at different places on Etsy to kind of give me a rough idea. And then we started at a price and that lamp flew out the door. So we upped it, and the next one flew out the door, and we upped it until we found a happy medium. You can either go up or go down. It's dependent on how long you want it to sit there. Or do you, it's a hard balance of, do you want to make money or do you want it to sit? You have to decide if you want to start low or start high. But like I said, just because you price it at $50 once doesn't mean it needs to be $50 for the rest of your life. That's not how it works.
Awesome. That was some really good info. This is kind of the second to last thing I want to ask, but is there anything that either of you have been working on? Any art pieces that you would like to talk about? What's like the last thing you guys have worked on?
I personally went to school for art, and I would say that I'm an artist, but I have about 100 half-done projects. Collecting supplies and starting a project is what I'm best at, which is why it is not my full-time job. But I do have a lot of projects started that are collage-based or painting-based, but nothing spectacular at the moment. I'd rather tell you about somebody else's art than mine.
I got you.
What about your handmade Christmas cards that you make for all of our board members and volunteers and staff every year?
That is a good point, but they are started, but they are not finished.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm always working on something.
I found a box of fine china that my mom gave me that belonged to my grandma. They're like, I don't know if you've heard of Limoges china. It's like fancy china, and they're soup bowls. So they look like a coffee cup, but they have two handles, like a handle on each side. I have 6 of them. I am not going to eat with fine china at my house ever. So I thought, and I went online and looked at repurposing like coffee cups, and I found this thing where you can hang it by a handle and put like a little scene inside the cup, and it becomes kind of an ornament. So I'm making polymer clay scenes and gluing them into the cups and like a ribbon loop handle, and then I'm gonna send them out to my family members so everybody gets one to remember grandma by, and they're cool. So that's what I'm working on.
That's awesome. That sounds really adorable.
Yeah, slowly but surely. And that's not like, is that going to change the world? No, probably not. But maybe the rest of my work will. And there's also like, I say a lot that Austin area arts is not Austin area brain surgery. This is supposed to be fun. You're supposed to look forward to it. You're supposed to be excited about stuff. So not everything has to be like the best thing you've ever done and the most meaningful and like the most like world shaking with its revolutionary power. It's okay to also just have fun and build your skills doing things that are fun and cute and that people will like. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to add on to that too, to anyone listening to this, which is, changing one person, in making an impression of one person is still changing the world. It's not 8 billion people, but you're still making a difference. So don't push yourself too hard.
Yeah, it's that ripple effect that I truly believe in.
Well, that kind of wraps everything up. Is there anything you guys would want to talk about, or anything you wanted to ask me, or anything that you just wanted to talk about in regards to like the Austin area arts?
You're muted, Laura.
I think we covered a lot. I can't think of anything that we really left out.
I think one thing to note is that our host Jacob here is an artist himself. And I'd say you have learned a lot in the last couple of years, probably. And so anything that you have to also share, just because you don't work at Austin area arts, things that you have learned and done and dealt with are just as important as what we have to say.
Thank you. Well, with that, I'd like to thank you both for your time. I hope everyone enjoyed listening to everyone, and hopefully someone got some useful information out of this.